Good morning, YouTube. Today I'm going to talk all about whether or not you can daily drive a supercar.
So are you recording all of the nefarious activities?
If you're new to the channel, my name is Dan. This is my garage, and this channel is all about the supercar ownership experience, buying and selling them, maintaining them, driving them, whatever. With me, as always, is the shop dog Mo. Hey Mo, what you doing, huh, buddy? Huh? Yeah, just saying hi. So now that I've been doing this YouTube thing for quite a while, a lot of people have asked me, do I daily drive my Ferrari? And the answer is no, absolutely not. But what's fascinating is when I first bought my first Ferrari, my F430, Megan said, you only get one car. So for the first few months of ownership, I did actually daily drive the car. And let me tell you, it kind of sucks. And there's a lot of weird problems that you don't really think about until you actually are in that situation. So we're gonna talk all about that today. The first thing that comes to mind when you're talking about whether or not you're gonna daily drive a supercar is what car do you actually have? So in some cases, you might live in a climate that actually snows frequently, or gets a lot of rain. Or maybe the roads are really rough.
Come on, dude. You can do it. You can do it. It's just a Lamborghini. It's only a New York City street.
In those cases, you have to kind of tailor the supercar to meet the needs of your geography. So if you live somewhere snowy, you're obviously going to want something that's got all-wheel drive and that can get snow tires. So there are certain cars that are available that do have all-wheel drive, such as the R8, Aventador, Huracan, FF, Lusso. Certainly living in a snowy climate doesn't necessarily mean you can't drive a supercar, but it means, yeah, it's going to be a little bit trickier and your selection is going to be much more narrow. Another thing that factors in with your location is how cold does it get? Frankly, a lot of these supercars have tires that cannot drive below certain temperatures. For example, the tires on this car are not rated to go below 40 degrees. So anytime it's freezing or below, these tires can actually get ruined just by driving them. So unless you feel like swapping out your tires multiple times a year, yeah, there's all sorts of weird little implications like that you have to factor in when buying these cars. Also, a lot of these cars don't have the world's best climate control systems. Most of the modern cars are doing pretty good. They actually have reasonably good air conditioning and good heaters, but some of the older ones, man, if you live somewhere that's cold, the heat's not very good, you're gonna be freezing your butt off. Or if you live somewhere that's really hot, the AC might not do a very good job, and so you're gonna be sweating. So the first practical thing that you have to consider is, what does your job entail? So do you have to drive to the office every day, or do you work from home? Do you have to commute hundreds of miles? Do you have to commute only a few miles? All those things obviously matter a lot when you think about daily driving a supercar. When I was daily driving my supercar, I lived about 7.5 miles from my office, so it wasn't too bad. But immediately there was a weird stigma about parking a supercar at the office every day. It's one thing when you have a cool car to drive it to the office occasionally. People kind of think that's cool. Hey, you know, so-and-so brought in their cool car. Oh, let's check it out. But if you start doing it every day, people start thinking, is this guy a douchebag? Or like, is he trying to show off? It kind of creates a weird stigma that's not the greatest thing with your coworkers. So I actually kind of felt a little uncomfortable doing that. Did you find anything interesting? No? Oh, you found a piece. You always find metal. How are you always finding metal? Don't eat the metal. Of course, another thing to consider is, are you having to haul around some kids and a spouse, or is it just you and you're a single person? If you have a big family, then most of these supercars are 2-seaters. There are some 4-seaters, the Lusso and FF come to mind, but certainly it's a much rarer supercar that actually has 4 seats. And along with that is the trunk space on most of these cars is pretty terrible. Again, the Lusso's kind of like the practical supercar. It does have a hatch. You can actually fit some stuff in it, but check out the trunk on this thing. Well, I've actually taken this to go get groceries a few times. You can fit some groceries in the trunk, but you're not going to be fitting any sort of like bigger objects. So when you have groceries, you can pick the bags and kind of stack them and fit them in somehow. I've even had to put them in the passenger seat when it's overfilled the trunk before. Some of these cars do have reasonably good sized trunks. This is probably on the upper size as far as supercars go. If you look at the size of the trunk in a Huracan, for example, it's about half this space. As some of these cars have literally zero trunk space whatsoever, no storage space. So that becomes a big problem. Out of sheer curiosity, let's see how much junk we can fit in this trunk. Alright, so let's check out what I was able to cram in here. We've got my car cover, we've got 12 quarts of Pennzoil, 2 big old 1-gallon jugs of car cleaner product, my air cannon, this big old plastic tote, and 6 toy Ferrari models. If you live in an area that's got stuff that can deliver groceries and food and all sorts of whatever things that you're buying and things that you need, that is an option that you have to factor in. So do you want to be relying on all these other services, perhaps even taking Ubers here and there? So one of the things that does become a massive problem, and you have to start planning routes and where you're parking, is clearance. As you know, these supercars do sit very low. So as you can see, that's all you get. We got about 3.5 inches of clearance or so. Hi Mo, thanks for helping. During the time that I was daily driving my F430, I had a plan every single time I drove a new route. Hi Mo. Mo's getting antsy. He only has about a 3 to 5 minute tolerance and then he starts getting needy. What's going on, buddy? Do you need some lovin's? You need attention? Huh? Yeah. I know. You're getting so abused. Yeah, you're so abused. When daily driving the F430, every time I drove a new route, I had to go on Google Maps and plan the route. I had to go look on Google Street View and look at whether or not I could make the clearance. Moses is totally not gonna let me do this. Okay, do you need to go in? Here, let's go in. What, now you won't go in? Yeah, I see how it is. So unless you enjoy getting on Google Maps every time you drive anywhere new, yeah, that gets old real quick. And having that worry about, oh no, am I actually gonna be able to get into that parking lot? Where am I gonna park? Parking these things is a legitimate concern. Do you want in? You're just gonna be a turd. Okay, come on, let's go in. Go in, good boy. Even something as simple as, the area safe to park a supercar? And I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's true. If you park in a crappier part of town, are you risking the car? Are there gonna be people who aren't as respectful? Kind of things that you have to think about, and it sucks, but that's the reality. Some people get jealous when they see the car. I've had people stick gum on my car, and I was parked in a nice area. Yeah, you just don't know. People do weird things, and that's constantly on your mind, which brings up another point, which is, are you willing to sit there and worry about the car all day long? Many of the supercar owners I talk to, they get freaked out just at the idea of parking the car anywhere, even if they can see it the entire time that they're at the place that they're going to. So parking the car and not being able to see it and worrying about it all day, it's mentally stressful for kind of silly reasons. So I don't really want to do that to myself every day. Also factor in that the insurance on these cars is very expensive. Some of the insurance plans have mileage restrictions, so you can't even drive these things every time you need to. And once you start commuting, are you gonna be putting a ton of miles on these cars? Which brings up another point, which is the depreciation on these cars can be very bad and is very mileage sensitive. Many owners of these supercars don't drive them a lot because they're so worried about the depreciation to begin with. Are you comfortable with the idea that you're gonna be putting a lot of miles on this car no matter what? It's a forced thing because you have to do it every day as opposed to optionally driving the car. If you daily drive these cars, in a way it kind of takes away some of that pleasure and enjoyment out of the driving experience. When I was daily driving my F430 and sometimes I get stuck in ridiculous traffic or it's sitting there raining, why am I doing this? This sucks. My car's getting dirty. I'm depreciating it really fast. I'm not enjoying this right now. A lot of the cars are not that comfortable to begin with, so getting stuck in traffic just makes it even more miserable. So I think we've established that the idea of daily driving a supercar is kind of ridiculous and silly, but for those of you that absolutely insist that you have to do it, well, let's go over some of the tips and ideas of how you can make that experience better. First thing is make sure to buy a car that you don't really care that much about, and perhaps even one that has a lot of miles. If you buy one that's got low miles, you're just gonna be crushing the mileage and depreciating the car hard. You're gonna have to be slightly emotionally detached from the car because it's going to get messed up. There's just the reality of daily driving a car. Things are gonna go wrong, you're gonna get door dings, it's gonna get scratched, some bad thing's gonna happen to it, you're not gonna be able to keep it clean every day. All these things need to factor into the car that you choose. Perhaps getting a car that's got slightly better ground clearance would be a great idea, but perhaps one of the biggest things is make sure that the car has a good PPF. So you're gonna get all sorts of rock chips and scratches and whatever. It's a great idea to have a PPF on the car no matter what if you have a supercar, but if you're gonna be daily driving it, the risk factors for scratches scratches and dings and whatever goes way, way up. So you're definitely gonna want a good PPF, probably even have the entire car wrapped in a PPF. Unless, of course, you don't actually care about the paint. And hey, you know, if that's your thing, you don't really care, you're emotionally detached from it, it's just a car, it's a thing, then good for you. Get whatever you want. If I had to choose a supercar to be a daily driver, there's pretty much only one or two options in my opinion that make any sort of sense, and that would be the FF or the Lusso. They have the hatchback, they have 4 seats, they have a lot of trunk space, they have all-wheel drive. Those factors make it so yeah, you probably could get away with daily driving it. It's not considered as much a loved supercar as the 458 or the Huracan or Aventador or any of these other kind of more sports car oriented supercars. But that brings the question of, is that really the supercar you want? I don't know. Some people love the FF and Lusso. I actually think they're pretty cool. I mean, the idea of a roaring V12 and a daily driver going and getting groceries and blasting down the road with 700 horsepower. Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. But I don't know if a lot of people want that sort of thing. So I'm genuinely curious if any of you have daily driven your supercar. If you have, put your story in the comments below. I'd love to read it. I'm very curious about that. Ultimately, daily driving these cars pretty much doesn't make sense. So that kind of is one thing that matters a lot. If you're going to be buying one of these cars, you're pretty much going to need a daily driver, some sort of second car. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. All of those things do help out my channel greatly, so I do appreciate it when you guys do that. Also, a huge thanks out to Aaron Paulus for giving me 2 shout outs in the last week. Thank you very much. That was awesome. It did help my channel, give me some more subscribers. And we crossed 50,000 subscribers. Yes, this is the first video I'm filming since hitting 50,000 subscribers. So
well, this calls for a celebration. I will.
Thank you all of you guys. For those of you that joined us in the live stream last night, thank you for watching. We have a ton of car stuff coming your way, so you guys are want to stay tuned. It's gonna be sweet.